Friday Cafe. We're so pleased to see you here. I'm Judy Carson from the State Department of Education. But I want to welcome my colleague, Scott Nugas, also from the State Department of Education, who manages programs dealing with social work, social emotional learning. He's also our crisis person. He handles very gracefully things that go on in schools that are crises for students, teachers, and parents. And so Scott's a program manager over some federal funding that allowed Connecticut to really dig deeper in social emotional learning in a number of communities and create bridges between schools, families, and community services. So, and Middletown is one of the examples of that work. So Scott, I want to welcome you and thank you for being here.
It's really my pleasure to work with Middletown as one of 3 districts that have been identified for Project Aware. Project Aware is a federal grant out of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Substance Abuse and, oh, I hate microphones. Can people hear me if I do this? Okay, I swear to God. Oh, because you're taping. Oh, that's right. I really hate this, so I apologize, folks. Okay, you got it. Project Aware is a 5-year grant out of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and the Department of Education, in collaboration with a number of districts, finally identified 3 districts that were primed for doing the type of work to develop comprehensive mental health services that integrated community and school-based services to address the needs of their students. And Middletown has done so much work on this. They're one of 3. The other 2 districts are Naugatuck and Windham. And I've had an opportunity to work with some of the people here very directly and some of the people indirectly. But one of the things that's really important about this is, even though it's a federal initiative that comes through the State Department of Education, there's a lot of local management and local control on how this work is done. And so essentially we identified a few evidence-based programs, as was required by the feds, and around that structure of those evidence-based programs that address adult learning and adult staff understanding of student development and student social emotional needs. It also addresses some of the critical issues around trauma as well as substance use. It also provides districts with an opportunity to look at their own systems and their own structures through SHAPE, which is the School Health Assessment and Performance Evaluation. I like how I got that, Kathy. And SHAPE is available online for free, and you can engage in SHAPE, and it will help you look at your school district and identify what are the gaps and what are the strengths that you have in place, and allow you to build off of that. With that sort of preliminary introduction, I would like to say about Middletown that they have been one of the people that, as we had expected, had hit the ground running, are moving tremendously ahead in staff evaluation and staff development. And one of the things that we are looking at, just as Friday Cafe is a very dynamic experience for people. It has a solid core of individuals, but it has other individuals peripherally that come in and go out and contribute their thinking so that it moves on. In the same way, Middletown has brought in a number of individuals to share in the tasks and to share in the thinking and to share in the problem solving. Because we all know one of the greatest dangers we have in our systems is a group think that stops us from seeing solutions. And Middletown has really done a lot of work for that. That said, I think if I may, let me pass it first to Kathy Thompson, who is my leader in residence, the representative overseeing the whole Project Aware effort. Kathy, if you would, Dr. Kathy Thompson.
I am not.
You're a psychologist, I'm a social worker. That's as close as you can get, come on.
Well, hello everybody and welcome. As Scott said, I am Kathy Thompson. I work in Middletown Public Schools. My background is I was a school psychologist at the elementary level and then at the secondary level, and now move into this work as the coordinator. Project Aware stands for Advancing Wellness and Resilience in Education, and what we're here to really talk about today is how we've leveraged some of that grant funding to really build a comprehensive MTSS system, which is multi-tiered systems of support, specifically around social emotional learning and comprehensive mental health services. So I'm going to call up the rest of my team, because really all we've done is organized some funding, and we've done a lot of staff training, but really I think what Middletown has done best is that we've built it into a system and into a framework, and that's where we're going to be sustainable. And that's what I really want everybody to focus on today, is how can you take elements of the system and framework and building social emotional learning, parent engagement, and equity work into your own districts without even having the grant funding, right? Because not everybody has Project Aware, and we can talk about how we use that to leverage some of that systems work, but also that if whatever the funding is, and however you are building it, if you build it into the system, that's how it's going to be sustainable. So if I can call the team up and we can kind of get started.
So welcome everyone. I'm Donna Marino, and my job is the Family and Community Engagement Coordinator for the Middletown School District. And what's really exciting is how all these programs came to be and how we collaborate in Middletown and how we partner with the community, because I want to go back to the basics. We're all here because we want children to succeed, and we know when parents and community are involved, children do succeed. And these are some of the very trusted partners that we have in Middletown that are going to talk to you. And when we got together to plan this for today, one of the things that we said is we're not going to tell you about our programs. We really want to speak from the heart and tell you why we do what we do and how it affects our children and our families in Middletown. So we've been able to do this through multiple grants and multiple collaborations with whether it takes Middlesex Hospital or the Community Health Center or our ministry partners to really all come together to work for children and to help their social emotional health. So I'm going to turn this over to, we have a lot of people here to talk to you, and they're very excited to share what they do. But I'm going to turn it over to Liz Waszkiewicz and Sherry Chapman, who oversee MSELI, which is Middletown Social Emotional Learning Intervention. Right? Okay, good. Those we all use all those acronyms all the time, and I want to make sure we get that right. And they're going to tell you about that framework, and really I think it's that framework that has allowed us to sustain our work and to even think into the future to continue to sustain, what is it? What are the needs of our children, and how can we all together bring that together and help them? So, and I want to go back to, we had many community conversations over the past couple of years, and one of the things that our families and parents and staff that came out to the conversations talked about is social emotional support. That's our biggest need, and so we're happy to be able to begin to address that need. So, here you go.
Okay, well, thank you again all for having us. We are really excited to be here. My name is Sherry Chapman. I'm one of the social and emotional learning coordinators for the district, specifically to elementary schools. I'll get into that in a minute. And Liz and I are going to kind of just take you back a couple years and let you know how this all started. So as a trained licensed clinical social worker, most of my experience had been in the mental health community in Middletown. So I've been in the community since the late 90s, working with Middlesex Hospital. And about 6 years ago, I joined Middletown's Public Schools as a clinical social worker, a school-based social worker doing that traditional work. And 2 years ago, our amazingly wonderful, talented Director of Pupil Services, Amy Clark, approached me and said, hey, we have this idea. It's part of our strategic operating plan. We really want to bolster the work we do in district, specifically around social and emotional learning. We're going to pilot this concept in 2 elementary schools. So I want you to create 2 teams in 2 elementary schools that had been identified, and create, implement, and then coordinate a framework addressing the social and emotional needs of all the students in the buildings. And also, by the end of the first school year, I want you to make sure you have enough bones to this process so that you can go ahead with your teams, you can bring it to our Board of Education, they can approve it, we can get more people involved, and roll it out to the rest of the elementary schools in the district. So we have 8 elementary schools in Middletown, a 6th grade intermediate middle school, our middle school 7th and 8th grade, and then our high school. So initially it was that thought of, oh my God, deer in the headlights. But then I said, no, we've got this. We're doing some amazing work in our district already, and we have very strong community partners. So we've got this. One of the things we needed to do immediately was to make sure we had a universal language to start the conversation in our buildings. What is social and emotional learning? What are those competencies that we need to address? And then how are we going to do that? What materials do we already have? What systems and frameworks do we already have in place? So that we're not adding a brand new thing onto our already kind of very busy schedule and structures and teachers and families. So the first thing we did as groups is say, let's find out what's out there in our community. And nationwide, who is really doing this work at that top tier level, really that gold star standard of work. And we came across, Liz is going to go into it in more depth, and I'm going to just remind myself publicly to only talk for a couple minutes because there's a lot of people here that I want you to hear from. But we came across a universal 5-point SEL framework under CASEL. Liz will explain that more. We then decided, gosh, if we have this universal language, how do we know how our students are already doing? Is there a way that we could potentially universally screen in a couple of elementary schools, because we get to pilot this for the first academic school year and make tweaks as we go along. Let's see if there's a tool that we could use to kind of guide us in this work and really help us target the work. We found a screening tool, we started to use it, and by the end of November, we were able to see, wow, we have information based on this tool being anchored by our SEL competencies to understand where our student body really lives along this continuum of a multi-tiered system of support. We quickly were able to see how we were doing in our buildings at our tier 1 level, whole school instruction around social and emotional learning. And we also decided and recognized, boy, there's some kiddos in our building that need a little extra support, and how can we deliver that? And then we had our top tier levels of intervention that really integrated with the work that was already being done in our buildings with our psych and social workers and other experts in our building. So with that said, I'm going to hand it over to Liz so that she can kind of go into more depth around CASEL and our multi-tiered system of supports.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz Waszkiewicz, and similar to Sherry, I also coordinate the social emotional learning in 2 elementary schools and one of the middle schools this year. And you have on your table some handouts on some visuals really that explain or demonstrate how in Middletown, how we envisioned this. We call it a marriage between the multi-tiered system of support that we already had in the academic realm and social emotional learning. And the other handout is our CASEL framework. So CASEL is the Collaborative for Academic Social Emotional Learning. They have, it's a free website that has information on the 5 competency areas that they've identified really, I can't think of the right word, but the 5 competency areas that really encompass all of the skills that it is that students need in order to become successful adults in relationships, in careers, and to be successful students and engage in their academic learning as well. I won't go into too much detail about each of the areas and the definitions because you have it there, but what I'd really like to talk about is how we've come together and collaborated with our parents and our communities. What we found prior to doing this work, and you may experience this as yourself in some school systems that you work in, is a lot of the work we were doing was in silos. So the school psychologist had some information on a student, the nurse had some information on a student, parents had some information that they wanted to share but had no avenue or no system in place to share that information. teachers had information about how students were performing in the classroom. And we brought all that information together as a team. We have partnered as a community with the Ministerial Alliance in our community. We've brought on some mentors from the Ministerial Alliance. We've had home visitors in our school district already, and we brought them into that team, our multi-tiered system of support team. We brought those home visitors to trainings that we've gone to around social emotional learning, so that when they are working with families in home, they are speaking the same language with those parents, the parent they're working with, that we are speaking in school, and everyone is all on the same page. Some of the things that we look at in terms of data points are not only that screener, which is not free, which is what the grant was able to get for us, but other data points are already free and already being used in some of your school districts, such as coming together and looking at how many conduct reports students have, their attendance, who's having some concerns with attendance, who goes to see the nurse a lot. So instead of having siloed conversations and trying to put all of that work together, we've committed to meeting as a team regularly and really having those conversations and looking at the data all together and planning for our students in a thoughtful and intentional way, and wrapping the correct supports, the appropriate supports based on the students' needs. Some of the other ways that we've been able to engage parents as well is not only bringing in our mentors who come from the community and our home visitors onto those multi-tiered system of support meetings, and vice versa. We've done even small things like having an SEL corner in our building newsletters. So a lot of our buildings have weekly newsletters that go home to parents, and now there's an SEL corner that teaches parents or informs parents really on what it is we're doing in school around social emotional learning. We've created parent workshops and had parents attend so that we can discuss and talk about what it is, how we teach these competencies in schools, and give parents some ideas on how they can incorporate that at home. We had really good feedback from those workshops, and parents are asking for more. And I think really the most effective thing has been, again, having everyone come together and really committing that time to have these discussions together. With that said, I would like to pass it on to our Ministerial Alliance members, and they can talk a little bit about their work with, coming from the community into the school system.
I want to give you guys a little connection on this first, which is kind of an exciting thing for Middletown. We have our Ministerial Alliance here, but Pastor Perry and Pastor Wynn's brother, actually, their project from Parent Leadership Training Institute was All Pro Dads. And so All Pro Dads is part of this whole MCELI framework. And it's really exciting to think that a project out of parent leadership has turned into this. And now we have All Pro Dads in 4 of our schools. And our ministers are our favorite partners, and we so enjoy them.
Yes, good morning. My name is Lonzel, and I am a part of the Ministerial Alliance, which I think is a very unique component to our framework for our social emotional learning in the Middletown Public School District. And so in that being said, our focus to get the families engaged is that we approach from a ministerial view, and we counsel our kids as we are mentors in the school. So we counsel and we intervene with the kids from through a ministerial lens because of building trust with families. A lot of the families we associated with, they have lost trust per se in the system, as they say it. But so to get them back engaged, we may use the church community to get that engagement. That's therein is the Ministerial Alliance component. And so Ministerial Alliance is a group of ministers in Middletown that has an alliance, and that way we are able to tackle all the several different schools. And one of the main tools we use to get the dads involved because of the the stereotype that moms is the one that's supposed to go to the PTA meetings and all that stuff. So our focus is to get the dads involved, and we'll use the tool of that tool of All Pro Dads, where we host a breakfast periodically throughout the year. And our PTA helped us in funding, and we got funding from Family School Connection as to providing the food and stuff. We found out that food would get the dads there, and then we get a chance to give them a spiel and encourage them to be more active in the kids' life. And we modeled, myself and Deacon Wynn, in the Middletown Public School system. We have 2 more mentors that are in the other 2 schools, and we model the behavior that we want the kids to exhibit, and we mentor, expected behavior from the kids and throughout the school day, and we have that strong connection with families, because as now I was approached by Family School Connection about a family that wanted to get engaged, and they were unable to get to continue their with the church community, and I thought it was a good opportunity that we came up with the way the components worked. We was able to mentor the kid and also help the mom all in the same moment. As far as me mentoring the kid, he'd get to accompany me to the church, and that way I get to bring mom. And all this started from the idea from a grant, the initiative of the I Care grant that was formed first, and we came up with the idea of having the Ministerial Alliance in the school. Thank you for your time.
So I can't say enough about our minister partners. They really bring a spirit to the school and fun, and they're just so engaging. We all love them.
Thank you.
Are we?
Thank you.
I know I've spoken already, but one anecdotal story to demonstrate how effective it's been partnering with ministers is when we were starting these All Pro Dads breakfasts, and how they've enabled us to get out of that group think mentality. Is we were talking about how to do it on a budget, right? We've all got tight budgets and bagels, and we've got cereal downstairs, and it was Mr. Perry who said, "Oh no. If you want dads to come to school bright and early, you need some meat."
Hot food.
Yes, definitely hot food. And one of our other minister partners that aren't here today is just an amazing person with going out and getting donations. I was just blown away with what he brought in for free.
Yep.
So you can all do it. The next group I'd like to introduce you to is our Family School Connection home visitors. And we also partner with family resource centers. We have additional home visitors that are all part of this framework. And so we have Colleen Aline, who is at Spencer Elementary. Michelle Gomez is at Bealefield School, and Kiana Dorsey is at Middletown High School. And it's because of Project Aware that we are able to expand some of our home visiting, but I'm going to let them tell you just a little bit about some of the things they do.
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Gomez, like Donna mentioned. I'm one of the home visitors for Middletown Public Schools, and our program is called Family School Connection. And we partnered up with MSELI, and with partnering up with MSELI, we're able to bring the social emotional piece into the home, where we're able to bring in that piece to what parents may not be aware of what's going on in the school with their child, and just bridging the home and the school together and bringing back information that they may not be aware of. There's many highlights of the home visiting piece. We're able to go to the home and help them with the basic needs, and just things that the school can get a hold of the parents, we're able to do because we built that trust in the home. And just like Pastor Perry said, we were able to partner up with a family that was in need, and we weren't able to get the mentoring with the child through other programs. Pastor Perry stepped in, we talked about it, and just having those partnerships allow us to bring the student and the parent into the school and just know that we're here to help them. Another big thing that happened for us in Middletown was with the whole Dahlia Poe Foundation, where we were able to give the students throughout Middletown over 500 and plus brand new free coats, where a lot of our families weren't able to buy coats for their students, their child, and we were able to provide that for them. That also brought on the trust piece, where they know that they can come and have that the schools are there for them, that we want to help. We have the resources at that moment to help and build that relationship with them. Our home visitors in Family School Connection and with the Family Resource Center, we were all able to come together and make this happen. And one of the things that we're working on now is being able to help the families over the holidays. A lot of the mental health happens a lot now. We're able to give them the resources that they need to get that help. And also, we have Adopt a Family, Adopt a Student. So our Middletown community and the partnerships that we get with the teachers, the staff, is amazing in Middletown. And with MCELI, we're able to bring all this together with our team.
My name is Kiana Dorset, and I'm the home visitor at Middletown High School. And I just wanted to say that, so I share an office with the social emotional learning interventionist. And it's been very great working with her, because we're able to run groups and girls circles. And the benefit of it is, like, some people on my caseload, she's able to work with and do check-ins with them and making sure that they have goals for themselves. So it's a very collaborative process, and it really helps with the families as well.
Hello, my name is Colleen Aileen, and I'm the home visitor with Spencer School. And also, one of the biggest highlights at our schools, we actually will be doing Girls Circle and trying to collaborate and bringing students together within the 5th grade, so they have an easier transition moving into middle school, which is sometimes a big problem. So we're looking forward to moving forward with that in January.
Okay, next up, we have with us Dwight Sharp. He's our racial equity coordinator, and we really, the work we're doing, we want to make sure that we do have the that lens to look at what we're doing and how effective we're being in that. So I'm going to let him say a few words. I don't think that's right.
I don't know if it's working either, but that's okay. So I'm Dwight Sharp. Like I said to earlier folks this morning, I do have a particularly long title. I will go on record saying that I think it's kind of a long, pretentious title that says a whole lot more sometimes than it really needs to. But I am the District Equity, Restorative Practice, and Social Emotional Learning Facilitator. Yes, there's a quiz at the end, so write that down. A lot of the folks here are talking about something that's super important. And I think it's the one thing that brings a lot of you folks here, as you're kind of listening to us all, is recognizing that you're all part of a community. Your community is unique. Your community might not be like Middletown, and that's perfectly fine. And I think what we're really trying to tap into here is along the lines of a restorative practice lens of recognizing that you need to build a sense of trust in the community that you exist in. That community has all of the resources that it needs in the people that exist in that community. It's just a matter of finding a way to actually create some of those alliances, create a space for that collaboration, create a space for that trust to be built, to continually build on the needs, not that we think our community has, but what our community is telling us they have as needs, and meeting those needs. We build that trust that way, we build that sense of community that way, and that is, by and large, the restorative practice process, which is all about community building, contrary to what a lot of folks believe, that it's all about, restorative circles and, response to punitive things. And that's really kind of a small percentage of what restorative practices is. Ultimately, what you're looking at up here is a prime example of restorative practices in work. We might not always call it that, but this is what it is. On the other end of my role as a racial equity facilitator, we cannot go without saying that there is a racial element to every single thing that we do. Race plays a role regardless how you might think it does. It might be a bigger role, it might be a small role, but either way, it does play a role. Regardless if your district is 99% white, or if it is 20% white, race plays a role in everything that you do. And if we do not take the time to adhere to that observation, then we're not going to be doing a good service to our community regardless of what it looks like. So once again, that's one of our charges in having the Ministerial Alliance here and recognizing that we need folks that can go out into the community and kind of talk with our families, while also recognizing that there's an academic piece to it all, recognizing that the needs of our community are going to be varied and different, and they might be varied and different along racial lines. If we don't acknowledge that, then really we're just offering a lot of lip service and not actually putting our money or our mouths where our feet are, or whatever that saying is. Either way, we're just trying to make sure that what we say we're doing, we're actually doing. And what we're doing isn't anything that we want. We're doing all the things that our community is asking of us. So I can talk obviously a whole lot later and forever about this, but I will pass the mic. Thank you.
So next up, I want to talk a little bit about multi-generational learning in Middletown, and I'm going to turn this over to Camille Smith, who is our Parent Leadership Coordinator, and she's going to tell you a little bit of a story of how we all got connected.
Hi, good morning. My name is Camille Smith, and I work alongside Donna as the Parent Leadership Training Coordinator. We, the alumni of the PLTI, we received a grant and we hosted a parent-on conference. And from that parent-on conference, we had one of the sessions we had was special education, and a lot of the parents went to that session. And even when the session was finished, they didn't want to leave that room. And from that, the special education group of teachers, they hosted a special education on conference. And from their conference, they hosted a social emotional on conference, because although parents wanted to learn more of what their kids were doing in school, they also needed a social and emotional piece of it. So with the MSLE, they did a good job when they hosted the conference, because the parents wanted to recognize some of the behavior, learn more about their kids' behavior, and learn more about what was happening in the schools, because a lot of time they are not able to come to the school on Monday to Friday, but being that it was a Saturday, a lot of parents came out to that event, and it brought us all together. The home visitors, as we all talk about, and the MSLE and the special ed parent and teachers, everyone was there to support this, and they are really doing a marvelous job.
Thank you. Just to this team, it always continues to be powerful for me when I sit in the room with all of these players at the same time, because we really get to see how we're working together, and that's really the goal of all of this. The one thing I want to kind of send home about how we're doing this work is the alignment to our multi-tiered systems of supports. So when we talk about universal social emotional learning for students, we're talking about our racial equity, our educational equity, restorative practices, social emotional learning curriculum in the classroom, choose love, all of these types of initiatives and efforts. That's universal, that's for all students. And then we're utilizing a universal screener for all students, identifying the students that may lag behind with some social emotional learning competencies. We use that as one indicator. Other indicators may be conduct reports or student behavior in the classroom or absenteeism. And we identify students who need that next level of support in that tier 2. And that's where we're pulling in social emotional learning interventionists, home visitors, Ministerial Alliance, wraparound services, community services for that tier 2. And then additionally, we're training our school psychologists and social workers for trauma-informed care at the tier 3. So really, the best way to kind of describe what Middletown social emotional learning and intervention is it's a mirror of our academic SRBI. So in the same way that academic SRBI supports all students, identifies students' needs, and provides targeted intensive instruction across that multi-tiered systems of supports, we're now doing that for social emotional learning. So that's really the piece that I would suggest, whatever pieces that you kind of can take back to your communities, that if it's integrated into a systems framework, that's where we're gonna see sustainability, and that our family engagement and community engagement is in the core of that work. Because, the old adage, right? It takes a village. We really, really believe that in Middletown, and I think this is the evidence of that. So, thank you.
I want to let you know that we're going to all come join you at your tables. and we put some questions on your tables to help you think about what can you do in your town? What are the needs, and what are the partners that you can explore?
My name is Yukio Ida, and I am a parent in West Hartford. And we were at the center table, and we had Donna as our person from Middletown, which has been really wonderful to just ask lots of questions. We went all over the place, but some of the takeaways, the main takeaways was that we really need a plan from the top, like a strategic plan from the top that can uplift everyone in the community and make those connections, as well as, how much that trust is really important, whether it be between the organizations or whether it be between like the top to the, the community members, like just trust everywhere and how to build that trust and the long investment that you have to make those connections. Am I missing anything else? No, we're good? Okay. Can I dibs on? I'm just kidding. So thank you.
So brave you should sit on the piano.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Jessie Livornia. I'm the Director of Partnerships for Windsor Locks Public Schools, and at our wonderful table right over here, we had two wonderful facilitators from Middletown, and we talked about, first we started talking about home visits and what do they look like in Middletown, because we're coming, like the three of us are coming from Stamford, East Haven, and Windsor Locks, and we have a little bit of a different model of home visits in our districts, them being more two teachers go in a team to visit their students' houses or families, and it was just getting an idea of like what Middletown is doing with regard to home visits. And then we transitioned into learning all about the race equity work that's going on in Middletown. It was really, I'm just talking about what I learned. So I don't know about what you all learned, but this is what I learned. So and just learning about how in every school there is a equity coordinator, and also, is it racial or restorative justice or practice? Okay, restorative practice coach as well in every school, which is really exciting, and it makes it a lot more, because at first it was like, wait, are you doing all this work alone? And it's like, no, I have 50 coaches across the district, which is like, oh my God, that's a dream. And they have in Middletown once a month, they have a professional development all based around race, right? So race equity, and which is just like, I'm like, oh my God, once a month, I want that. Like, and how do we make this happen in all of the districts? Well, I live right outside of Middletown. I've been trying to get into Middletown for years. But anyway, yeah, I know. There you go. All right, that's all that we learned. Anything else, actually? That's all that I learned.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gianna Gill. I'm the Family Resource Coordinator for an elementary school in Windsor. So I'm representing the Windsor Public School District. We had an amazing conversation at my table that started with the importance of social emotional learning when it comes to the multi-tiered, the MTSS multi-tiered system, whatever that we do at our schools, our multi-tiered support. And we talked about how a lot of times during those academic conversations, behavior is something that always comes up, but we don't really have a platform to discuss that behavior. So I definitely will be taking away, and encouraging our administration and our MTSS team to start really thinking about how we can incorporate social emotional learning in our meetings, because it's necessary. Before a child can even open their minds to education, if they're going through something at home or personally and they don't know how to navigate that, they need those tools. So it's just as important, and we always want to think about the whole child. Then we delve right into impacting actually our, we were talking about, like, how do we get parents in the building who, might have restraints at work, like, oh, like you can't be here because you need to be at work. So we thought of actually having, definitely like printing something on, with a letterhead that's saying, you know, this person was at their child's school doing X, Y, and Z. We also had a great conversation about parents who are re-entering, you know, the community and how we can incorporate the things that we're doing around, you know, social community, you know, engaging our community and our families, you know, supporting those families. So I think it was a good conversation, and I think we took a lot away. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'll keep it short and sweet. I'm Erin Depot. I'm the Family Community Connection Coordinator, really long title, at Kelly C. Magnet Middle School in Norwich. At our table today, we discussed how we are doing this work in social emotional learning and support. However, I think we're doing pieces of it in our districts and our schools in the work that we do. And it's great, and we're all doing our best in those pieces, but I think we need a structured agenda within that, and I don't think that's happening probably. And then we also need, because I'm questioning that, and I'm like, I don't think that's happening, we need to communicate with one another within that. So communication was key at our table as well. So thank you.
So hi, my name is John Flanders, and I'm the director of the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center. And let me start out with kudos for our friends from Windsor and Windsor Locks, who are aggressive participants in the state family school partnership program with the state. So they are actually walking.
Yes.
Stanford and East Haven both. Oh my God. Well, you guys didn't stand up. You don't get credit if you don't stop.
I was representing
them. I had a duh moment. And by the way, I'm speaking because when they announced that somebody had to speak from the table, everyone else at my table got up and walked away. My duh moment was part of our work is supporting families with children with disabilities, and part of our work has spent a lot of time with children with social and emotional needs. And one of the things that we run into, that we see in the communities, is a shortage of resources. And Middletown has taken a resource of people whose job it is to support the souls of people and integrated that into the education process. My moment is, why isn't that going on everywhere? And my mission is that we're going to work to make sure that it is.
Hi, I'm Dave Bechtel. I'm with Cross Sector Consulting. We are actually doing the evaluation of the state family school partnership. So Betsy and John and who else is a bunch of folks here in the audience. I was Judy, of course, and folks from AFCAMP. I don't think anyone from AFCAMP's here today. So anyway, there's a bunch of partners doing it. So our table was a little different because we didn't have a district and we weren't talking at the district level. It was really more about learning about what Middletown's doing, and we had pretty wide-ranging discussion. I would say a couple things that came up which is probably useful for the state folks at the Family School Partnership Project is thinking about communications. So they're going to be they're in the process of developing a website. So thinking about, I think one of the examples was, you know, visuals, very clear, easy to read, bite-sized communications. The example from East Hartford Public Schools with like a stoplight to see how we're doing on certain measures. I thought that was helpful. I think the other part we talked about, a lot of times we talk about parent engagement. I think we were talking about that was actually on the form, but we need to think broadly more about family engagement, but also, and I think Middletown, again, this came up with John, looking at community as a key piece of that. So a lot of times when you talk about, and I'm gonna model Tuesday's conversation. When we talk about family engagement, we think, oh, it's just about the teacher and the parent and the child, but we need to think more broadly about an interdependent relationship where it involves community members, and I think obviously in Middletown, that's a perfect example of how you guys have done that. So those were kind of the two big things. Anything else, Betsy, since you were...
It's the reaching out and then deciding how people will be connected, right? So you can connect with people and reach out to people, but you also have to have an investment, and that means that people feel like they're doing something, right? That's the best thing in the whole world. So I'm encouraging people to really think about faith community. Okay, we're going to turn on the carousel for folks. Is she there? Woohoo! Here we go.